Think you've seen it all when it comes to Japanese muscle cars? Think again. In part 1, we dove into the jaw-dropping designs, the heated debates, and the incredible performance of these rare beasts. Get ready to uncover even more legendary models as we dive into even more rare Japanese muscle cars that will leave you speechless. Number 5. Isuzu Bellet GTR. I believe that the majority of people's perceptions of the GTR emblem can be summed up in those 5 terms, 3 of which are the same word. It's likely also true that most people immediately think of diesel ute when they hear the term Isuzu. But Isuzu used to be much more than that. Our latest article on the Gemini is a constant reminder that Isuzu previously achieved great success in the auto industry before being brought down by a greedy General Motors and a couple of severe financial crises. It may surprise you to learn that the GTR and Isuzu badges used to sit together on an automobile. The 1969 Bellet GTR is somewhat of a lost tale. In the 1960s, Isuzu's little sedan, the Bellet, was the forerunner of the Gemini. Imagine a somewhat scaled-down Gemini with swoopy 1960s styling that is also offered as a coupe. Japanese automakers at the time were keen to demonstrate that they could produce a high-performance vehicle on par with those made in Europe and the United States. The C10 Hakusuka GTR 1969, Mazda Capella RX-2 1970, and the Toyota 2000 GT 1967 were all introduced around the same time as the Bellet GTR. When the basic Bellet GT was introduced in 1964, its 1.6-liter OHV engine could only generate 66 kilowatts. Therefore, Isuzu installed a more sophisticated DOHC 1.6-liter engine from the bigger 117 Coupe G161W under the hood to bring the GTR up to speed with the competition. This generated 90 kilowatts of power. Like other Bellets, it has RWD, of course, but it also has independent suspension and better brakes overall. Number 4. Mitsubishi 3000 GT. It is important to note that this automobile is quite uncommon, and it is even rarer in excellent condition. In this instance, the car was the prize after a protracted, intense, and exhausting hunt for the ideal vehicle. All of this paid off in 2017 when the owner in New York discovered the automobile in perfect condition, with only 23,000 miles on it. After a relocation, the current owner would finally transport the vehicle from New Jersey to Texas. A 1995 Spider, which was only offered in 1995 and 1996, is the vehicle seen in the video. When it was first released, the 3000 GT VR4 Spider cost $64,000, or more than 6 figures in today's currency. There were very few hardtop convertibles at the time, especially high-performance models, and rival manufacturers had not yet made many inroads into this market. The product planner for Mitsubishi in the 1990s went to the then president of Mitsubishi and argued the necessity for a car comparable to the 3000 GT since, apparently, Nissan had already built a similar vehicle but had withdrawn after making just one. The 3000 GT is powered by a twin-turbo V6 engine that is mounted beneath the hood in a unique way. Additionally, it features a 6-speed manual transmission, which was uncommon in the 1990s when 5 speeds were the norm. The inside may have a nostalgic appearance, but it has withstood the test of time, and the design is still appealing today. The 3000 GT has become more valuable in recent years due to its growing collectability. Number 3. Mitsubishi Starion. Named after the Greek mythological horse known as the Star of Arion, which belonged to the king of Argos, the Starion itself had the ethereal ancestry of the harvest god Demeter and the sea deity Poseidon as parents. In keeping with its historical tradition of naming automobiles after horses, Mitsubishi prominently included horse imagery in their first advertising for the Starion. The Starion only appeared in Mitsubishi dealerships when it debuted in 1982, but before long, the attractive hatchback coupe started taking on many personas in an effort to win over more American aficionados. Beginning in 1984, the Starion was rebranded as the Dodge and Plymouth Conquest, keeping all of the Mitsubishi branding but just altering the badges and insignia on the car. Chrysler took over the domestic side of the equation in 1987, changing their approach once again. As a consequence of this agreement, the Chrysler Conquest was manufactured until 1989. Because of its varied branding history, the automobile is now frequently referred to as a StarQuest. The Mitsubishi Starion and its Conquest siblings were all equipped with the same 2.6-liter 4-cylinder turbocharged engine that produced 7.5 pounds of boost, with up to 10 psi burst, in the United States. American drivers used to greater off-the-line torque in their sports cars found the 2.6-liter engine appealing. The car maker was also an early pioneer in the creation of the balancing shafts for big 4-cylinder designs, a technique it leased out to Porsche for the 944 of the same era. The 2.6 liters initial output ratings of 145 horsepower and 185 pound-feet of torque were competitive with those of competitors such as the Mazda RX-7 and the Toyota Celica Supra. The rear-wheel drive hatchback came with a 5-speed manual transmission as standard, but a 4-speed automatic was also an option. The Starion had an engine design that would later become quite recognizable to aficionados of Japanese performance outside of North America. Non-American Starions offered the 4G63B 4-cylinder because they were aware of the higher tax rates in the European and Japanese markets for large displacement engines and knew that these consumers usually preferred a higher revving powertrain. Later in the decade, this engine changed to become the one powering the well-known Mitsubishi Eclipse and other vehicles made by Diamond Star Motors. During the first few years of manufacture, the 4G63B was available in a number of configurations, such as an intercooled turbo 173 horsepower, a non-intercooled turbo 143 horsepower, and a normally aspirated engine, just over 100 horsepower. The 2.0-liter engine's output climbed to 197 horsepower starting in 1984, and by 1987, the 2.6-liter engine was eventually put online in Japan. Number 2. 1969 Datsun Fairlady. Despite the fact that the Japanese auto industry was still essentially in its infancy in the 1960s, Nissan attempted to create a competitor for the all-conquering MGA and TR3 and targeted the American market. Despite having a similar form and design to the MGB, it was a rather successful initial attempt at creating a sports vehicle and came out 2 years before the British Roadster. On the technological side, it was a step below the MG because it featured a separate chassis with double wishbones and front coil spring suspension. A live axle was located at the back and was supported by semi-elliptic springs. It wasn't particularly fast at first, taking more than 15 seconds to go from 0 to 60 miles per hour, and lagging well behind modern UK automobiles thanks to a 1,499cc engine that only generated 71 horsepower. But during a development program, it increased to a more manageable 85 horsepower in 1963. A 1,596cc engine with 96 horsepower was subsequently launched in 1967, along with front disc brakes and first-gear synchro mesh. In 1967, the Ultimate Fairlady made its debut with a brand new 1,982cc overhead camshaft engine that produced 135 horsepower. Number 1. Toyota Century. One of the most subtle declarations of achievement, it was constructed to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the birth of Sakichi Toyoda, the founder of Toyota. There aren't any of the brazen, "look at me, I've got tons of money" remarks that are now typical of high-end prestige cars. This is the opposite of the four-wheeled status emblem covered with diamonds. However, it feels just as unique. It is the pinnacle of automobile engineering. Unlike many other vehicles, the Toyota Century does not undergo the twice-yearly facelift cycle. This is one of the few vehicles left with wing mirrors, still fixed on the wings, making it a timeless classic rather than a follower of newest fashions. The 1997 edition of 4 more cylinders was the sole significant improvement made to the 1967 introduced Toyota Century. The engine was upgraded from V8 to V12 with a 5-liter capacity thanks to the additional 4 cylinders. Earlier this year, the Century seen above came to an end of production. Hearing this made me very sad. But I was even more thrilled to learn that Toyota will be revealing a new Century at the Tokyo Motor Show. Unfortunately, the V12 gets a hybrid system and turns back into a V8, although with a 5-liter capacity. It will be on sale in the middle of 2018. The press photos show that the lace curtains have been kept, which makes me very happy. The engine in the Century was built just for it and isn't found in any other Toyota. It's a 4,996cc 48-valve V12 with variable valve timing, and its code is 1GZFE. It generates 469 kilograms per meter of torque and 280 PS. The real numbers are believed to be a little higher, but those are the official numbers, at least. For a limited time, LPG was also a possibility, but with a lesser power output. A 6-speed automatic transmission transfers the engine's power to the back wheels. Nearly. You may be familiar with the top-secret Toyota Supra and Kazuhiko Nagata, also known as Smoky Nagata. This proved that, depending on who you ask, the 1GZFE engine can generate between 900 and 1,000 horsepower by adding a pair of turbos and undergoing extensive tweaking and improvement. At 197 miles per hour, it famously propelled the Supra up a wet A1. He was later hauled over by the cops, which was funny. Thank you for watching till the end. Like and subscribe.